everybody. Welcome to Piedmont Virginia Community College. We're glad you're here this afternoon. It's my pleasure and really quite an honor to introduce Jim Webb, the senior United States Senator from Virginia. I believe in really short introductions, and I know you're here to hear from him rather than me. But let me give you some highlights of Senator Webb's incredible career. And I'll try to be brief, and I've eliminated a whole lot of other incredible highlights. Prior to his election to the Senate in 2006, Jim Webb was a combat Marine in Vietnam, an attorney, a senior Defense Department official, an Emmy Award-winning journalist, a filmmaker, and the author of 9 books. He graduated from the Naval Academy in 1968. He was first in his class of 243 at the Marine Corps Officers Basic School. In Vietnam, he was awarded, and listen to all this, the Navy Cross, the Silver Star Medal, 2 Bronze Star Medals, and 2 Purple Hearts. He received his law degree from Georgetown University in 1975. As our senator, he states that his highest priorities are to institute policies that enhance America's standing in the international community, to promote economic fairness for all Americans, and to ensure the accountability and transparency of our government. He has had many legislative successes as senator, but perhaps the most noteworthy is his authorship and his stewardship of the post-9/11 GI Bill. Over 750,000 veterans have applied for benefits under this program. And we have 102 here at PVCC this semester who are attending on the GI Bill. I'm going to stop there. It could go on and on. The accomplishments are just amazing. It's really my honor to bring Senator Webb before you. He's going to talk a little bit about his work in Washington, and then he's going to field questions. So I hope you'll all be thinking of questions you'd like to ask him. When this concludes for members of the media, he will meet with members of the media backstage. So with no further ado, let me welcome Senator Jim Webb.
It's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. We're on a pretty tight time schedule. I was glad to have time to say hello personally to a lot of you who are here sitting in the auditorium right now, and for those of you who have served, thank you for your service. I'm going to just talk for maybe 10 minutes, and we'll have about maybe 10 minutes for questions who are a little bit longer than that. We have a number of people here, including my staff, who are part of another program where we're all going to have to be out here around 2 o'clock. First, let me say that when I decided to run for the Senate in 2006, rather than trying to engage in a debate over this bill or that bill or one particular legislation or position that somebody might have taken or not taken, what I did was I laid out the 3 themes that I thought were crucial for our country in terms of moving forward and kind of regaining our position in the world and rebalancing the playing field for people here in our country. The first was that we needed to reorient our national security policy. Part of this was what I thought was a strategic error in terms of the invasion of Iraq and the aftermath of that invasion, but in a much larger sense of where we are going in terms of our foreign policy and our military policy. I grew up in the military. I'm very proud to have served in the Marine Corps. My brother's a Marine, my son's a Marine, my son-in-law's a Marine, 2 of my brothers-in-law both served, one in the Navy, one in the Air Force. We have a strong military tradition. I've been around the military all my life. I've had the privilege of serving 5 years in the Pentagon. 1 as a Marine and 4 as a defense executive, Assistant Secretary of Defense and then Secretary of the Navy. And I covered the military as a journalist on a number of different occasions, including in Afghanistan in 2004 as an embedded journalist. So I just saw that in terms of where we're putting our resources and our efforts, we need to focus again on the areas where we can connect our foreign policy with our economic interests and our security interests, very heavily in Asia, which has sort of fallen off the radar screen over the past 10 years, unless you're talking about China. The second theme that I was talking about in terms of where we need to go is restoring notions of economic fairness and social justice here in this country. We've seen a greater division, not just between the top and bottom, we've seen a greater division between working people and the people at the very top than probably at any time in our history. Part of this was the notion of globalization. In Virginia, we've seen a lot of the implications of globalization, particularly in Southside Virginia, with so many manufacturing jobs having left for other countries. Part of it is the nature of the internationalization of the corporate elites. When I graduated from college, the average corporate CEO made 20 times what the average worker makes. Today, that's about almost 400 times between top and bottom. And there are ways that we can fix that and still cling on to the notion that this is the country where you can, if you work and you're smart, you can succeed. I don't want anybody not to succeed, but we need to put policies into place that put fairness into place for our working people. In terms of social justice, we took a big leap 5 years ago during the campaign when I started talking about the inequities of our criminal justice system. We have about 5% of the world's population, 25% of the world's known prison population, and yet nobody feels any safer. Any poll you take, you'll see about 70% of people in this country feel less safe in their communities than they did a year ago. That to me is not a political question. It's not a liberal or conservative question. It's a leadership question about how do we handle criminal justice from the point of apprehension to whether you go to trial. If so, what sort of court do you go into? If you go to prison, how long? What does prison administration look like? What do we do for reentry programs for people who've been into the system? And how do we address the issue of gangs, particularly transnational gangs? We put that on the radar screen, and we worked really hard in our office to get it into the discussion in the Congress. When I first started to do this, people, this is Virginia. People were saying, you can't talk about that issue in Virginia. It's political suicide. I said, how can you not talk about it? How can you not talk about it when 7 million people are tied up in some way in the criminal justice system, and a huge percentage of them are nonviolent offenders? We need to change the formula. We have led that issue. I'm very proud of that. And we are very close to getting a national commission to examine how to fix all these component parts in a way that we can hopefully get the people who should be in prison and have alternate ways of dealing with other people and help people who really want to re-enter society do so. When I talked about the notions of accountability, a big part of that is what's happened since 9/11 with so much power going into the presidency because people, quite frankly, after 9/11, everybody was confused, everybody was scared. The balance between the presidency and the legislature has gone way to the wrong way, and we have put a number of programs into place to try to rebalance that playing field. The other thing that I said before I ever decided to run for office was that for those people who've been serving in the military since 9/11, they deserve the same kind of GI Bill, the same kind of educational benefits as the people who served during World War II. The people who served in World War II, when they came home, we call them the greatest generation. They came home, they had all their tuition paid for, they had the books bought, they got a monthly stipend. 8 million World War II veterans took advantage of that. Lives were changed. People who never thought they would had a first-class shot, or shot at a first-class future. And for every dollar that the taxpayers put into the World War II GI Bill, we got $7 back in terms of tax remuneration because people went out and had successful lives. As many people here know, the Montgomery GI Bill that was in place when we first went into this post-9/11 period was a peacetime GI Bill. It was a recruitment incentive, and the average that we were seeing when we were comparing World War II is it would give you about 14 or 15% of the benefit in comparable colleges for those who came back from World War II. So we pushed on this. I wrote the bill along with legislative counsel before I was even sworn in to the Senate. I'd been a committee counsel on veterans programs many years ago. I introduced it my first day in office, and we did something else very important in this bill. We got it through in 16 months, but I used this also as a prototype to show how I wanted to work as a leader in the United States Senate. I worked across party lines. We worked hard to educate fellow members of Congress and staff people about what these differences really were. I sought out Senator John Warner, who was then senior senator from Virginia, who I'd known for a very long time. I actually served on his staff for the last year in the Marine Corps when he was Secretary of the Navy. Chuck Hagel, who was a Republican Vietnam veteran, Frank Lautenberg, a Democrat, who had been in World War II, and the four of us, we moved forward. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, 2 World War II veterans, 2 Vietnam veterans, to form a consensus to show that this is what the next greatest generation deserve. And it was very, probably one of the great days of my life. Within 16 months, despite a lot of opposition, people don't remember this. It was not an easy lift. The previous administration opposed this legislation until the day we passed it for some reasons that now seem a little bit illogical, but at the time were pretty emotional. It was a great day when we passed that legislation and we started seeing the transformation I think it's going to have on people's chances at a first-class future. And we've had now more than 700,000 post 9/11 veterans sign up for this new program. And you know, when this bill passed, I had my staff in, and we were invited to do a lot of media. And I just said, you know, I don't want to count coup on this. I don't want to take a victory lap. What my reward, our reward as a staff, is going to be 20 years from now, when we can look out there and see the futures that were built based on the opportunities that we were able to present to people who had stepped forward and served. I believe that is going to happen, and I believe there are people here in this room who are going to help make it happen. And I think with that, I'll just stop and take a few questions.